Welcome to Spiritual and Sassy, the podcast where we bleed deep soul wisdom with authentic confidence.
We're your host,
Tressa
and Myra, and together we'll explore the mystical side of life, challenge societal norms and programming, and embrace our inner power.
Whether you're on a spiritual journey or just love a little sass, this space is for you.
Let's dive in and light up the world with a little more love. Hey.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It is 70 degrees in North Carolina right now.
Yeah?
Yep. It's really nice.
Hey, it's like, I don't know, 55 or something here in Wyoming. It's crazy.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That is very unusual for February.
Very.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I took advantage of that and went out and got my yard cleaned up. I have 2 dogs, so, there's cleanup to be done.
And what people don't realize in Wyoming, the winter cleanup for dog cleanup is
so much
worse.
An
event. It's an event.
Yeah. I would have hired somebody if I could have found them, but I went and did it because I love them so much.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's been really crazy because I don't know, they think the saying of spring cleaning, and I've thought about that a lot. And, especially being back in the area, it's been a long time since I've been in an area where the sun is shining, birds are chirping this early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I can really feel it. I understand what spring cleaning really means, like I can feel it in my bone, it's like, wow, yeah, let's just time to get rid of it, and so my pep's back in my step, the birds are chirping, like I said, I can feel the sunshine. I've, watched, I live in this, it's a development, but it's not like a overpopulated development. But there is a loop and people will walk around the loop. And so I've seen all my neighbors, they're back at it. All the dogs.
With their walking, the dogs are out. Yeah.
The dogs are out. The people are out. Life is, it's like the earth is breathing life back into everything again,
Yeah.
after the winter.
Yep.
So
I get that. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I think today we wanted to talk about clutter to some degree, right? Or what you have in your life and how it can impact what I call the flow of energy. So, but I love what you're talking about because I believe like also the seasons they're meant to help us as humans, right? And as we go into spring, it is a time of like rebirth, right? And growth when you plant and you're getting ready for that growth. So I think this is the perfect time to have this conversation.
Yeah, I agree. And this year is the year of the snake. If anyone's paying attention to that, with the Chinese New Year. And I was reading up on it because, one, Blake's a snake. And I was like, oh,
Is he?
hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I like snakes, and it made me think of you because I know you're not a fan of snakes. But as I was reading about it, it's interesting because the purpose of the year of the snake is the shedding, the release. And when I think about decluttering, I think about release. When you declutter in your life, whether it's objects or people or places or whatever it is, that's just an ultimate release to allow the new flow of energy to come. And so, along that with the spring, with just decluttering, and it's the year of the snake, it's the year of transformation, to release, to shed a skin, to transform. That's just kind of been buzzing around in my mind the last couple of days.
Yeah, I love that. I'm not the biggest fan of snakes, but the crazy part is they've like not literally not like a snake that's alive, but I've had more snakes come into my space. Like for Christmas this year, my mom gave me this snake bracelet that my uncle had actually gotten in some of his travels. So I think she said it was from Thailand. But I was really drawn to it, right? It's like kind of a sense of power and protection.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been interesting as I've kind of entered into the year how snakes are showing up for me. So I didn't know it was the year of the snake, so maybe that's why. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's recommended to wear snake
Yeah.
jewelry of some sort for protection of your energy throughout the year. So
Yeah. So I'll be wearing
you
that
are,
bracelet.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say
I'm,
you were already on it. You were,
yeah, I'm on it. Yeah.
you didn't even
So
know.
I didn't even know. Yeah, it's funny how the universe brings you what you need and you're not when you're
Yeah,
not aware. I'm like, "Oh, okay.
exactly.
That's cool." Yeah. So so talking about energy and the flow and what's around you matters, like our spaces matter. I've taught this before in workshops where we talk about energy, and energy is always an exchange, right? There's a give and a take, there's a flow to it. And I wanted to share a story about that that has nothing to do with clutter, but it might help the listeners understand how impactful it is energetically. And it actually has to do with money. And it was during COVID. So COVID had just started, March of 2020, that time frame. Everything had shut down. And it was really interesting because about 30 days into COVID, nothing had financially shifted for me. Very grateful for that. Like I was working, my husband was working. Nothing had shifted, like as far as like what was coming in. And it had been a long time since I had felt like I kind of don't feel like I have money. Like I feel broke right now, which was the oddest thing because nothing was changed. Everything had stayed the same for us financially. And in fact, I should have felt like I had more money because I wasn't going anywhere. But that was the problem. I was in a meditation one day and it came to me, you've blocked the flow, right? I was not putting anything out. I wasn't going anywhere. We weren't eating. Everything had shut down. And immediately it was like this epiphany of, okay, whatever I can do to put money out, I need to do. So as soon as I recognized that, I started to do curbside or, whatever was
Yeah.
available, what people were trying to do during that time. And everything rebalanced, right? It was,
Hmm.
I had blocked the flow of that, regardless of, the analytical mind going, well, 1 plus 1 should still equal 2. You're
Hmm.
still getting the same paychecks in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was one of the biggest lessons that really helped me understand how powerful the flow of energy is and how it really works. That what you're giving out, you're getting back, right? It's that taking and
Hmm.
receiving, and everything has to have the balance to it. So before we jump into the actual clutter of your life in the physical form, I just wanted to share that story because it was really great for me to have that experience and learn from that.
Yeah, I agree. You don't think about that type of flow until you are experiencing that type of disruption and the flow of that. And, you know, I definitely agree with that on many levels. I have felt that in my life too, whether it be in money or relationships or, you know, on the last episode we talked about the job, like finding a new
Hmm.
job. And even that, I was in a state of disruption to allow the flow of energy for new opportunities to come into my life because I was holding on too much to something else. So I needed to release that opportunity, or the old opportunity to get new opportunities and let
Yeah.
go of the fear around it. So it's the same. I needed to put the right energy out and let go of the other energy, or to allow different flows to come into my life. And and along the lines of clutter, I love this subject because I have, you know, it's like, is clutter when you're thinking of physical objects, or are you hoarding? Is it sentimental? What is the meaning behind it? And um, I'm not the worst. I can say that on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm not the worst. But in the the last few months, especially when you move and you
Mm-hmm.
realize how much you have, uh, and then you're starting to go through those things, and it's like, oh my gosh, what was the point of this? And objects hold energy and they consume energy, and it's like, why that didn't even serve, it doesn't serve me now, and I think, uh, I can't think of her name right now off the top of my head, but does this spark joy? When you're looking at an object, does this spark joy? Should I keep it or not? Um, that really aligns with the discussion of the flow of energy. Does this object spark joy? Does having these things in my life spark joy? Is the clutter giving me joy? Is it disrupting the flow for my home life, my family life? Are my animals disrupted by this clutter around me? Like, what does that mean to me?
Yeah, you're right too. Objects do hold energy, right? And sometimes we get so attached to the energy of what the object represents to us, but we don't
Mhm.
necessarily need the object for that. And that's that sentimental type stuff, right? Like, um, I've seen, somebody transitions, right? And you're hanging on to
Mhm.
their physical things, right? You
Yeah.
don't necessarily need that physical thing to feel the love that you had for them, right? But we get
Yeah.
attached to that physical form of what that means. It's kind of like, I love this analogy, you are a mama, I'm not a mama, but I'm an aunt, right? And at some
Mhm.
point, we've all had like a child like draw us a picture or color us a picture, right? And their
Mhm.
energy of that pure love is in that expression that they gave to you, right? And
Mhm.
they're so excited to give it to you. They come running to you like, here, mom, I made this for you, or here, Aunt Tressa, I made this for you, and then you have it on your fridge for 10 years or so long, or whatever you do with it. And then a lot of parents will like, they can't get rid of it. They put it in boxes, right? It's
Yeah.
because of that pure love that they felt that expression, right? They could still feel that without it. But yeah, as you talk about objects, it made me think about that and kind of laugh because it wasn't that long, maybe 5, 6, well, probably longer than that because time is so hard to remember. But Troy's dad and his wife at the time were cleaning
Mhm.
out like some of the old stuff, and like they had this box of stuff that his parents had kept him for him, and we were like, here you go. And I'm like, what are you going to do with that? Like, it was just interesting what parents keep that they are
Oh my
attached to.
God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have laughed, and that's actually helped me think about what am I keeping of like magnolias and
Hmm.
eventually Dracos. But I've laughed so hard because my mom has driven items of mine from North Carolina to Wyoming, and now I'm back in North Carolina. It's like, for what? So then I had to
Yeah.
move all that back, and I'm ready to let stuff go. She's the one who finds out that it's gone and gets upset. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my, I don't need this, man. Like,
Yeah.
I love you, and but it's mine now. You gave it to me. I can let it go.
And
Like,
I
it
can
doesn't
get
make
rid of
me
it.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like we gotta move on." And it's so funny because when I moved, it wasn't funny in the time, but I had held on to a lot of stuff. And I had, I got married and relocated, and then we moved to Omaha for a short stint. Then we moved back to Kimmer. Then we moved from Kimmer to Lyman. And everywhere I went, I had kept certain items. They
Hmm.
just kind of stayed in the same totes, and some of them were from college, some of them were just personal, and I never did anything with them. Well, when we were packing and they were loading the truck, apparently that was the boxes they decided magically didn't need to come. And I was a little upset because I'm thinking, darn, um, you know, what was in there? And then I thought maybe that's a relief in a way because the decision was made for me, and I really don't know. And nothing special was lost. I've got the things if I can't tally it in my mind, then obviously it wasn't that special.
Right.
And so I've got, a tally of certain items, and
Hmm.
it happened even with Magnolia's clothes. I was holding on her clothes for what? I have a son, and I thought if I had a daughter, I guess I'd use it. Maybe, probably
Yeah.
wouldn't. I'd probably end up buying new stuff. I know
Yeah, you
me.
would.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah. And so that stuff was gone, and that was left behind because there wasn't enough room on the truck, and then it ended up being donated or used or repurposed or given to other family members. And so, in a way, at the time it made me sad, but in hindsight, I can see how, the universe granted me a favor there. I was able to release some of those things that were tied to certain time periods. And I've got,
Mhm.
a couple pieces of her clothing and things that meant something. I've got all of those. And this stuff was just clutter. It just genuinely was clutter. There was no sentimental value to it other than she wore it at one point.
Yeah. 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 I agree. It sounds
So
like the universe did you a favor and you learned
it
something.
sure
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Um,
is always important.
yeah, it's always important. Yeah. It's the same energy of like when a child gets attached to, a blanket or a
Hmm.
teddy bear, or, I've seen parents like, oh shit, we left the turtle at home, whatever its name is,
Yeah.
we gotta go back because the kid's gonna have a meltdown, right? For some
Oh,
reason, that item soothes their energy, right? Um, and it's funny because I had an item like that I had, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many years. I was maybe like 7,
mhm,
8 years old, and I got really attached to this pillow. And
mhm,
I packed that pillow through adolescence, high school, marriage, like into my marriage. I had that pillow on my bed until probably, oh man, my early 40s, I would guess, late 30s, somewhere in there. That thing, my whole family joked about it. They called it grub because it had the original pillowcase that was so disgusting. And then my
uh,
sister-in-law made me a new pillowcase to put over it, and the pillow is just disintegrated. I mean, it's
yeah.
you know 30 plus years old. It only lasts, but I was so attached to the
Mhm,
energy of that because as a child, I had kind of a rough childhood, and it gave me some sense of peace, right?
mhm,
Um, and as I started on healing my own trauma in my late 30s,
mhm,
early 40s, that's when I was able to release that and let go of it. But it wasn't
mhm.
until that time because I was so attached to whatever the comfort of this inanimate object, you would call it, right,
Yeah.
gave me. And it was really interesting. So I can see how those things, soothe people for whatever reason. Yeah.
And I just had a thought that came to me about, um, you know, it's almost like that last piece of whatever you were holding on to feel that sense of security and safety. It had to go away for you to move on. Otherwise, you couldn't move into the version of Tressa you are today. And it sounds, you know, kind of silly coming saying an object held that, but really it isn't, because that was a part of you that you had to let go, like talking about the snake and transformation, a part of you that you needed to shed and you were hanging on to for so long. And that physical object had to go for you to move forward and to move into the Tressa you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And what it really boils down to too is until I started to find a sense of security from within,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
that had to feed me, right? And so as I
Yeah.
started on that healing journey, and I started working with energy work, well, first a therapist who understood metaphysics and energy and started to really build that sense of security from within. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's when I could start to detach from that because that was providing it an external source. Um, and yeah, you're right. It was really cool to start to understand that connection and why I was so attached to that poor little thing. Poor grub.
Yeah. R.I.P. Grub. Gone but never
See you later.
forgotten.
Never forgotten.
Gone. With love to Grub.
With love. Peace out, you dirty son of a
Yeah.
bitch. It was dirty.
Yeah.
Forgot.
Oh my gosh. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I've got friends and family that have similar things that have just completely just fallen apart. Like, I mean, it's just nothing. There's nothing there,
Yeah.
but because they've held on to it for so long. But, it's also making me think too about how, um, you know, finding comfort in objects and ultimately then can lead to clutter in your life. And I have been going through it's really interesting. It's funny to me because I have typically had a major life change after I have had a child. Which, you know, someone listening might say, well, duh, but not even about that, about myself. It's not even just been, becoming a mom and the change in that space and moving into, going from one child to two or for whatever, the family dynamic. I'm talking like personal growth as Myra the individual. And I've had job changes. I have moved homes actually when both around my
Yeah.
children being the same age. I have made these really massive changes in my life. And I've been going through my closet and I'm decluttering because of spring. It really is where I'm at right now. I'm truly trying to go through things in my home, and a lot of the things that I have that cause clutter in my life are clothing. And um, I had a family member helping me go through it, and part of this though too I want to call out is just being aware. And I'm at a different place in my life, and especially due to the growth that I've gone through, where I can really be aware of why I made certain decisions and why I have certain things, and I'm able to let stuff go a lot better than before, and especially around clothing. And in my life I have purchased large amounts of clothing to compensate for depression. And it was, instead of turning to another substance, I bought things, and shopping was how I coped with that. And especially when I was pregnant with both of my children and I was really insecure and I just felt, I wasn't in the same space. You go through ebbs and flows emotionally through that in general. I bought large amounts of clothing in both of those times. Postpartum, I did the same thing. When I was, first married, I did the same thing. When I was alone, moving to another state and a new location, I didn't have anyone in my corner yet. I hadn't made those connections in the
Mhm.
new area. I bought a large amount of clothing. And over the years, I've been able to get rid of a lot of those pieces. And every time I have gone through those clothes, I have remembered exactly where I was and why I bought this. I can remember, because I can look at the piece of item and, you know, my husband and everyone jokes because they're like, oh, there's still tags on it. And yes, it is horrible. I should have probably worn it, but I really didn't need it. I was fulfilling a purpose and I didn't know at those times how to cope with it. And so I used shopping as a way to cope with my feelings at the time. And
Mhm.
um, I'm aware of that now. And so since I have relocated my spending habits for clothing in particular, like buying excessive amounts of clothing that I don't really like or don't need, has completely changed. Um, I have really not overbought. I've only buying pieces that make sense, or I don't need five of the same shirt. For what? I don't know. And that's okay. If you want to buy five of the same shirt and you're listening, great, you do you. But I bought them because I don't really know why, or I didn't, it wasn't, I do know why I bought it, but I didn't need it. And so I'm going through these items, and it's been really therapeutic to also reflect on my growth of where I'm at right now and what those objects meant to me at the time and why I did that, and realizing the why and being self-aware. And I've really struggled with insecurity and loving myself, and I wasn't in a place of loving myself when I bought those items. And now I love myself more than I've ever loved myself. Self-love is very important, folks. It doesn't mean that I'm self-centered, but I do love, and there's a misconception of that. But right now I love myself more than I've loved myself, and I'm in many, many, many years. And I can see now the correlation of that. And I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. So,
Yeah. No, it
but that's where
absolutely
I'm at.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, and that's having that awareness, right? Of when we lack serving ourselves, first. We always have to serve ourselves first. And that foundation comes from truly having self-love, right? And understanding what that is for you, because it's authentic to who you are. When people don't have that, they will fill that up in other ways. You just chose shopping. We love to
Yeah.
talk about alcohol, and those are, but you're going to do it through, people do it through food. They do it through, you know,
Mhm.
gaming, consumption of social media. There's all different ways that people
Yep.
do this, right? And you just
Mhm.
recognize that that was a behavior you did to fill yourself up when you couldn't find that self-love, right? I
Yeah.
I also struggled with that. I've gotten a lot better too. Clothing, purchasing stuff to make me have that, you get that dopamine hit, right?
The
And
adrenaline.
the
Yeah.
adrenaline, yeah. And I'm the
Mhm.
same. I've really tried to work on, like, decluttering that aspect of my life, my clothing room, and like, and
Mhm.
now I've gotten completely different because I used to have to go to the mall. I don't even know how many times I'd go. Now I might go a couple
Mhm.
times a year, right? But when I go to
Yeah.
purchase something, I try to be aware, like, what
Mhm.
is the desire of me wanting this, right? Is
Yep.
it just to feel a void that I'm feeling right now, or is it something that I truly want and I really want to use? Those are two different energy sources, right? And if it's
Yep.
something I really love and it's like I feel like, I would use it, I'd feel beautiful in it, it would feel great for me, then I go ahead and buy it. But if it's just because, advertisers are amazing now, right? You're getting fed all of
Oh,
this
yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
constantly. And if it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
that I am mindlessly scrolling and I just like want to feel a void that I might be having in that moment, just having that awareness, I think, is really helpful for people to think about their why.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, speaking of social media, um, I am well, I'm not as much anymore because I'm at a different place, but I was very heavily influenced by, they call them bloggers or they call them
Mhm.
influencers or whatever. And, they do serve a purpose that can be helpful because, I have found some really great Amazon items that I may have never found before, that are really neat. And that's awesome. But they also share sales and they share dupes and they share this and they share that. And I, some of it has brought value. But when I was, over consuming social media and I'm seeing what they are saying brings them joy and happiness, I'm thinking, okay, that can bring me joy and happiness. Maybe if I buy this or buy that. And I've noticed I'm not on social media as much. And I am kind of actually relieved for a career change because I do pay attention to the marketing side of social media, but I don't have to consume as much social media as I did before. And
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah.
excited about it. Like, this is very exciting. Um, but I'm already naturally not consuming social media like I was before. I can't tell you what these people are doing anymore. Like I was following them like I would follow reality TV. And I have no idea what they're doing. I don't even know what they're talking about. And it's really cool. This is making me think about it too. I'm learning through my own self-love, learning to love what Myra wants to love, not because of a trend or
Mhm.
what looks and some trends are awesome. I'm all for, changing up my style and I'm a Gemini, so I want to flip-flop,
Yeah.
between different styles and different new things, like that's just I don't know. I was born. It's in the stars, and so I can't help that. But it's made me really think about like how I want to decorate my home, what objects I'm bringing into my home. It's making me think how I want to like what clothing am I bringing in? How do I want to dress myself? Um, what am I really doing in my life that is actually providing value to me in my home? Um, and what objects are they really bringing value to my home? Or am I just buying them because somebody's telling me online that it's a great deal and, I need to buy it?
Yeah, it's like you're trying to make sure that your space is a reflection of your inner self, right? I mean, that's what you're saying
Mhm.
is like, I want that to reflect something that brings me joy, peace, harmony, whatever
Mhm.
that looks like. And now you're able to do
Yeah.
that because you've done, like you just talked about, you've done a lot of work to understand who you are and love who you are and want to express that. And that's great. And we do express that through things, how we present ourselves, what we wear, what's in our space, what's in our home. I've changed a lot of things in my home personally because, you know, in my first 40 years of life, I was living somebody else's version of me, until I
Mm.
really started to understand who I was. The stuff that was in my home was what other people liked and other people that I wanted to like me. And so, as I've kind of
Mhm.
been over the last decade exploring in a completely different way of who I am, the decor in my home has shifted drastically. I'm going to have freaking moons and stars and, you know, alien shit everywhere if I want to. It doesn't have to be this, you know, teddy bear collection or whatever the hell I used to have. So yeah, it's
I
completely
love that.
shifted. Yeah.
Speaking of, I tried on a pair of sunglasses, and the person that was with me was like, "Nah, you look like an alien pilot, like I was
Yeah.
gonna drive a spaceship." And now I want to find them even more. Like at the time, I was like, when you're like walking around and
Yeah.
the mall. I have a mall near me. It's not like Fashion Place if
Hmm.
you're familiar with Salt Lake City, where it's a nicer big
Yeah.
mall. Those are more in Charlotte. But I have like a normal mall with like a Dillard's, and stuff.
Hmm.
And when you're walking around and you're like popping sunglasses
Yeah.
out, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah, I
just like
do.
threw them on and they're like, "Oh, don't get those." They're like, "You look like an alien spaceship pilot." And now I'm like, "Dang, how do I find those sunglasses?" It's like I want to be the alien
That's what I
spaceship
wanted. Yeah.
pilot.
Isn't it so funny
So,
how we let other people influence us? Like, maybe I'll have to wear them on the next podcast, but if I have my glasses on, there's some weird reflection. But last year, when I was in the eye doctor, I was like trying on frames and I tried on this red pair of frames. And so they're pretty bold. And there
yeah.
was this lady in there. I had no clue who she was. And we live in a pretty small town. So I was like, it's interesting. And she was just like my cheerleader. She's like, oh my
Uh-huh.
gosh, those are so amazing on you. Like, you've got to get those. Like, nobody wears red frames. And, you could pull that off, girl. So I was like, yes, I can. I'm going to get these, right? So I get the red frames
Uh-huh.
and I wear them, right?
Mhm.
My husband comes in. I have my red frame, my red glasses on, feeling all special. And he's like,
Uh-huh.
I can't remember exactly what he said. Like, those are bold or something that I took really negatively. Right.
Yeah.
And then we go to my grandma's house and my brother-in-law comes in and I have on my red glasses and he starts calling me Flavor Flav.
Oh, I wish I was Flavor Flav. I would take that as
So
a compliment.
I took it so awfully, awfully. I just was like, so I wouldn't wear these gosh dang red frames anymore. The glasses, I just wouldn't wear them. And then it
Mhm.
took me like a few months, and I'm like, screw that. I don't need their approval. Like, if I want to wear my red glasses, I'm wearing my red glasses. But it kind of goes back to, I think we touched on this a little bit in the last episode, is people project their own insecurities to you and you get to take them or not because neither one of those people would be wearing red glasses, trust me. And that's okay. It's not
Yeah.
their jam, but if it's my jam, it's my jam, and not to let their comments influence my decisions.
Yeah.
That was something that was interesting. So um
Yeah, that happened to me actually this weekend with my alien spaceship glasses. I should have bought them. But I got this necklace and I'm on a journey to collect intentional pieces of jewelry that
I
are
like it.
real pieces of jewelry that, I can maybe one day if Magnolia wants it or Magnolia's
Hmm.
kids, like, because I think about, I mean, obviously, we just told half these people don't keep stuff for sentimental reasons, and I'm over here like I'm hoarding jewelry, uh, but I'm doing it with a purpose because I think like we don't really have heirlooms anymore, or I
Yeah.
don't. I mean, what am I going to give them? My piece of IKEA furniture, you know, like if they even want it, you know, or my Amazon bowl, you know,
Yeah.
like nothing is collected like you know what I'm talking about.
I
Where
get what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I've been
Absolutely.
really looking at uh you know, purposeful pieces of jewelry. And do I like it? What could I do with this? You know, and it's how I've been also treating the clothing that I'm getting too. Like, I mean, no one's gonna, I'm not passing my clothing down, but like my intentional, like, does this have a purpose? Is it multi-purpose? Can I wear it multiple times? You know, what does this look like? So, anywho, I tried on the necklace and I asked the person with me, and they're like, I hate pearls. I think pearls are weird. I'm not a pearl person. This is weird. And I'm like, man, but I've been really wanting pearls. And I really wanted, because there's been a couple times around the holidays when I'm like, man, I wish I had a pearl necklace, you know. And for those who make jokes about pearl necklaces, I'm so sorry. I don't even know. But anywho, so I wanted a genuine, yeah, some
Yeah.
this
It's beautiful.
and they're like, yeah, this is bad. This is not cute, whatever. And the lady behind the counter, and then I asked her, and you know, I love what you're saying, like the version of like, why did I even ask these people for their opinions?
Hmm.
I don't even, but I just automatically did it. I held it up and I said, what do you think? And, you know, the person with me didn't, it wasn't that they didn't like it on me. They just didn't like the necklace. They just said, no,
Hmm.
I'm not a pearl person. Well, that's cool that you're not, but I am. And I don't even know why I asked them. You know, like, why did I need to seek out other people's approval? Why did I even
Yeah.
ask the lady behind the counter? You know, it was, if I wanted it, I was going to buy it anyways. One, that's just my personality. And then you know, the person with me goes, well, why did you even ask me? And, you know, said, yeah, I shouldn't have asked you anyway, you
Yeah.
know, and it kind of defeated the whole purpose. They're like,
Yeah.
why'd you ask me for my opinion when you did the complete opposite? And I already knew I was probably going to buy it, you know? And so I just, you know, that kind of goes back to that too, where it's like, um, you know, no matter where you're at in your growth, and no matter if this is the most I've ever loved myself in my life, I'm still, there's moments where you're seeking, you know, approval from others. And it's that habitual part of it where it's, you know, really trying to break those patterns, like, of I don't need anyone else's approval of me. This is a piece of object there, or this object is something that I'm trying to curate. I have a purpose. It meant something. I really liked it. It was a beautiful piece, and I'm glad I bought it. Meanwhile, I'm regretting my sunglasses, but you know,
Yeah.
it's but it's those parts of growth too that I think I'm trying to make a point here for those listening. You know, even though I am where I'm at, there's still moments where I'm like, dang, I wanted this other person's approval of me for what reason? You know,
Yeah. I think it's not a destination, it's a journey.
hmm
You get those little moments of where, like for me, it took me a couple of months before I would even put on those red glasses again.
hmm
And I feel like I'm constantly working on myself. I'm constantly uh, digesting information or looking at what else can I do to raise my frequency and become
hmm
more whole of who I am. But that was a little bit of I wouldn't even call it a setback. I just call it like awareness, right? It gave me some
yeah,
awareness of I still wanted somebody else's opinion of me to match mine. And when it
yeah,
didn't, I felt uncomfortable. And
yeah,
so, you know, and now I wear them and oh well. And people do comment. I wore them into a work meeting. I'd never worn them at work, and somebody called them festive. And I'm like, yeah, they are. You know, I just own it now.
yeah,
It's like, but I was ready for that. But it still showed me a little bit of shadow, right? I had some shadows still there. And we all
yeah,
do. And
yeah,
that's just coming back to that awareness. But before I want to make sure we touch on this before we end this podcast, because
yeah,
I love where we've gone with this. There's, you know, as we talk about clutter, it's this massive ball of yarn that we can untangle. But I did want to just focus quickly on physical clutter in the home or in your car or where you're
mhm,
at. Because, you know, if you have a lot of things around and you know, let things pile up, that literally, it literally will block the energy flow in your
Mhm.
spaces, right? And then things can get attached, right? Because we're bringing energies in and out all the time, because we're interacting with each other all day long, and
Mhm.
you're always a transfer of energy. And so one of the coolest ways to kind of feel this for yourself is if you have a space, maybe it's your car, maybe you've let your car get cluttered, right? Or we all have a space in our home, right? Like maybe you have space on your kitchen counter where all your bills go, or a room that just has a lot of stuff in it. This is how I want to challenge you to just commit to cleaning out one space, be your car, you have kitchen counter clutter, a room that you have that just has a lot of stuff. And I want you to commit to cleaning it and getting rid of anything that's no longer serving you, whether that's going to be a donation to somebody else, you sell it, or it's trash, right? Decide out on those three. And feel the energy of the space when you start. Just sit in it, feel it, right? Once you're done with the decluttering and the cleaning, go back and really sit with the space. Feel the energy of the space after all of these objects are actually gone from your physical space. And I promise you, you will feel different. You will feel what I call a higher vibration. It will level you up because you've cleaned out all of that stagnant energy.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting. Love to have you guys comment if you do the challenge and how it felt, and just express anything that you might have felt or what came up differently after you do that. So I'd love to hear more about that from our
Yeah,
viewers.
yes, yes, please let us know. Because this is a way, I want to touch on two things. One, energy is a feeling, and this is one of the best ways I can feel energy personally.
Mhm.
If you're not really sure what it's like to feel energy, this is it. You can physically feel it shift from when the space is cluttered to when it's not cluttered, and your home dynamic, the people there feel it too. And I and I think about clutter also is a manifestation of our emotions. And um, when I personally am going through really low states of my life, is when my room is the most cluttered, my laundry gets behind, my dishes aren't done, my car's a mess. Um, you know, when and I can tell when I'm really low, and during this journey that I've been in, um, I felt like in one space was constantly cluttered. And then I've been in this new space and I have stayed on it. I've kept it decluttered. I've kept it going. There's no rooms. I don't have any secret rooms filled with junk.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't
I
have
get
like
that.
you know, forget a junk drawer. I had junk room, and
Junk room. Yeah.
I don't have that anymore,
Yeah.
and I've stayed on it. And then when I went through a really low the last couple weeks ago, I everything piled up.
Hmm.
And, this past weekend I had a breaking point. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can't stand this stuff. This has got to go." And I have gone through a massive declutter again and a cleaning out and cleaning these spaces, and it's totally felt amazing. Like I can sit in the space um, when my room is really cluttered, I don't want to meditate in it. I don't even want to hang out in it. Uh it feels disruptive. I feel sloggy. I feel gross. It's
Hmm.
just like,
Yeah.
and it's a reflection of our emotions when you're in these states. And, I love the call out Tressa's made. And I encourage you, even if you start somewhere small,
Yeah.
doing just your dishes or doing my dishes, I feel like I've cleaned a whole house the way it feels, when you're just, especially when if it have a large family, or my husband loves to cook and that means he loves to dirty a million dishes. And so I'm grateful that we have food and he cooks, but it causes a lot of a mess. And or even if you have a laundry basket that's just full of clothes to fold or to wash, starting somewhere small, and you can just feel it and taking those steps to declutter and to clear out or to put away, find a
Yeah.
space. If you're don't have anywhere to put your clothes, then you're decluttering the closet so you can put those clothes or whatever it may be, or you have too many dishes. I used to collect coffee mugs. I've let those go. I couldn't fill a cabinet full of mugs because I had too many. And just I love even what Tressa said with the call out of the car. The car is a great space to start small and to just clean out, and um, if that's where you're at in a journey, if the reason you have clutter is an emotional state, starting small really does make a difference.
Yeah, yeah, a corner. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Start as small as you want because that will build momentum, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So, well, this was great. Good conversation
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
So,
This was wonderful.
yeah. Well, until next time, keep your vibrations high.
And stay sassy.